Today's guest is a global leader in hotels and travel. She brand expansion for Melià Hotels. And guys, she was once my boss around 20 years ago. Susanna Mander, welcome to After Dark.
Thank you, Kelly. What a pleasure to be here. I'm really, really excited because my goodness, 20 years ago. And look,
I
we are
know how
here.
time flies.
Fresh,
Time flies.
fresh,
I'm sure
energetic. Yeah.
we're gonna get into it. Okay, I'm just gonna throw some things at you. And in typical After Dark, we don't give the questions beforehand. So we love our guests to answer from the heart. And I wonder what you're thinking right now with all this AI coming in. What skills in hospitality can AI never replace? Like where does this fit in for us?
Well, that's a very good question to start with, but it's obvious that we are dealing in hospitality with a one-to-one, human to human. You know, we call it H to H. You know, the human to human, and I think AI will never be able to do that. However, we love it, and then there's a lot of things that we're doing with the AI, apart from all the technological performance on the selling side of digital side, but that part of the human touch of that smile, and you can have an avatar and you can have a wonderful voice, and we all created AI voices for our videos and for our promotional material, but then you said, oh, that sounds a little bit electronic. So
Yeah.
at the end, it's true that voices and dubbing is definitely have been a very big benefit from AI, but I think the human part and that touch and the smile and that humor and that the connection that you have, and that comes also from your personality to your customer personality, who you have in front. I think the human part can never be replaced,
I
hopefully.
love that. And you know what I was thinking? I don't know if this is true, it's just a thought I had. I wonder if as the years roll on in the next few years with AI, if the human to human, as you call it, and I love that, if that's what becomes the high-end luxury, most expensive part of the market, and the digital and the AI service becomes the lower part. A little bit like you go to McDonald's, you press the screen, you do your own order, they hand you a tray. But then you go to a Michelin star restaurant and the maitre d' explains the dish.
And that service, exactly, Kelly. I think you're absolutely right. There was going to be a moment, and I love that angle. I love the angle that you just highlighted. The fact that potentially the human to human part will be the luxury one, in the
Yeah.
sense that AI will manage, everything else, and we understand that. And I imagine a world. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to be still alive when there's going to be a world of uh, robots going around and doing things and driving the buses and driving the planes, and there's going to be this all these humans that probably are going to be at mercy of the robots. I think everything is going to go very fast, but we are here, so we are creating it. We created it. We have to prompt AI. I don't think AI will survive without humans. That's
Yeah,
my
I
point.
love that. So, obviously, Susanna, in your career, you've opened hotels, you've repositioned hotels, brand is your whole thing. What do
Mhm.
you find harder? Is it opening a brand new hotel or is it repositioning one that is already in existence? What do you find more challenging?
Oh, that's interesting because to be honest, I think the challenges in hospitality are all very attractive as challenges. However, that's always something difficult to do, because hospitality is such a beautiful word. It's the word of pleasure. It's the word of holiday. It's the word of getting away. Even traveling for business becomes something interesting to do.
Definitely.
So I have to say that. Maybe a repositioning is something that could be a little bit more challenging than opening. I've been all my career in brand strategy, brand management. We have created, I mean, personally, out of 9 brands in the portfolio, I dealt with the strategy of 7 of them. So creating from scratch 3 of them as well. So the brands are really when you open an hotel that already has a clear brand on it, and it can be Melià, it can be Grand Melià, it can be a Paradisus where we were working together, Kelly, remember, in Punta Cana. But I think the challenge is mostly when you have a product that is a little bit more tired, and a little bit mature, as we say, for destination. And when you have to relaunch that and to kick it out and to make sure that you have a proper positioning for a proper performance and elevate it, I think that's maybe, when you have to go from a place that is a little bit, steady and flat to a place that has to go up. I think that's a little bit of the more challenging part, to
And where do
change
you
the
start
positioning.
with that? Because that's a real, like, that's an area that many of us will never have had to deal with. Like, where do you even start? What's step one? You go, okay, this brand or this product, this hotel, it's a bit flat now. We need, like, what's step one? What do you even do?
It's mostly, yeah. Well, what we do is first of all, it's easy to speak about it, but you need to find first of all restructuring funds. So there's all a renovation, that needs to,
Cost
be
money.
done potentially. So
Yeah.
that's unfortunately there's always, the money is always there. So you need to be able to refresh the product, and in our case, the few times that we do it is that we rebrand one hotel from one brand to a higher brand. So
Ah,
what you do exactly, so you position, and that happens here in Mallorca. There was an hotel that was, very historical in Palmanova, was Sol from, the 60s and the 70s, and it was the first brand of the group. And then, slowly what reposition is slowly with a few investment 1 year and then another year. And then, we basically bridged, with different brands to go to the top brand that now is at the door, which is Zell, the brand with Rafa Nadal, which is, a very much of a big pride for us. And this hotel had an amazing, amazing performance. The first year that was rebranded. But also
wow.
what is very important is when you change the brand, when you elevate the product, when you reinvent the way this hotel acts in the destination, like a mature destination, like in Mallorca, Palmanova, and you add that brand vision that a brand like Zell has of community, of social well-being, active well-being, of classes and events, and all of that becomes something that really can make a difference. So branding has a power that sometimes we don't realize how strong it is.
So true. It's so true. And I do think a lot of, when I work with smaller hotel groups and they think branding is like up in the stars. And no, 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 like we have to know what this personality is of this product. And I'm sure for you, when you mentioned that you started three brands from nothing, like that's incredible and very exciting. How do you know you've got it right? How do you create something in your brain that you think people are going to want this kind of brand, this kind of product, but you don't know until you're millions and millions and millions of dollars down the road?
That's a very good point, Kelly. Absolutely, I love your curiosity. It's very interesting because, as a matter of fact, that's a lot of things happen before you create a brand, right? But and there's a necessity potentially that comes from your own portfolio.
Yeah.
So in our case, we have almost 400 hotels, and it's spread within 9 brands of different segments. But what happens is when you find a necessity, for example, either you have a series of unbranded hotels that you want, in expansion that you might acquire in your portfolio as branded. So you want to put a brand on it. So, and that's an opportunity also. But what we do when we create a new brand is, first of all, there must be a necessity, a need, a
Yeah.
market gap. So
Yeah.
we always look
Love that.
and
So it's
and
not just,
and
oh, here, this would be fun. Let's create a thing over here.
no.
No, you see a gap in the market and you create the product that fits.
Exactly. And there's a lot of brands that are getting, that are getting born now. And every time I turn around, I see a new brand in hotels and hospitality. And I'm like, oh, who are these guys? So I'm trying, but, and I believe that sometimes brands, and I'm not talking about us, of course, but sometimes brands are just, sometimes just creating themselves in a way that is not viable long term. So
Yeah.
what we do is that we analyze the gap. As I said, market gap needs to be the first one because you need to make sure that you have an audience that will respond to your brand vision, to your brand promise. So that's the first part. But then you need to analyze the market. You need to analyze the destinations where you want to be. You understand also that you potentially have already some hotels that you're thinking about branding with this new brand because the gap in the market, the destination, the type of customers you want to attract that potentially the rest of your portfolio is not attracting yet. And
Yes,
so
I
that's
love
also
that piece there because I see
exactly.
so many hotels, especially in weddings in my corner, that they miss that piece. Who are the people who are actually going to want to stay here, get married here, have parties here? Like, we don't focus on the customer enough in the beginning.
Ex- Exactly. So I think the target of something that you want to offer needs to be very clear. So we are going to the target, and then we're going to, of course, look at the viability of the project overall in terms of marketing, in terms of sales. Is a sellable brand? Would it get to a performance that is needed financially to be viable and to be sustainable
Yeah.
long term, which is something that is very important because sometimes the sustainability, we think that is something about the greenwashing story, but it's not about that. As a matter of fact, at Melià, we won and we were awarded as the most sustainable company in the world by S&P agency. But the main reason, because they would say, some customers, they were saying, but we saw some plastic somewhere. And I'm like, it's not only about the single-use plastic that we got rid of many years ago. It's about the sustainability long term. That the financial sustainability, something that have to
Yeah.
last, and has to be financial viable.
Yeah, and actually, we see hotels, don't we, getting thrown up and they're the new kid and they're really popular for 6 months. But then what happens after you're not the new kid anymore? You have to have that strength to carry on for
Correct.
years and years, not just be new and exciting and then, it fizzles out.
And that you touch a very important point because, as you said, when you open, you are the new kid on the block. Fantastic. The first 6 months, everybody wants to see you, everybody wants to be with you.
Exactly.
Fantastic. However, what happens after is that while you work on acquiring your audience, that you should already have kind of design the mark of your audience. I think once you are there and you're clear that you're going to be there, then you need to keep on going and attract more and more. And so then when your marketing comes in place, and then when your sales also needs to close. So at the end, I think that it's very important to be able to have long-term vision that will allow you to do all your necessary steps to get there safe and sound.
And Susanna, you're in and out of hotels constantly. I'm sure other people's as well as your own brands. What's the first thing you notice when you walk into a hotel? What's something that catches your eye for good or for bad?
I've never been asked this question. I love it. Ah, you know why? Because I looked at everything. I have my eye, and I listen also to everything. If there is noise, well, it's probably more than one. First of all, when I get in an hotel lobby, I like, well, depends if it's a traditional lobby or if it's a lifestyle
Oh,
approach that we have
yeah.
some brands that have no lobbies, basically no reception, let's say. They have open lobby, living lounges that are fused with the restaurants and the bars. So there are the lifestyle brands that we have like inside. We have a few in the North UK, Zell that is lifestyle, and Me that is also lifestyle, and we have one in London.
Yes.
These brands have a different approach overall to the way they welcome guests in the lobby area and also the check-in approach, etc. I always look, personally, I always look at the people. I'm a people person. I always look who's around. For me, the clients, the audience, people that are there, that are working, that are passing by, that are staying, that are eating, having a coffee, networking. For me, these people the people that are there is what makes the hotel alive. And for me, and if it's not one of our hotel, I do the same. I look at the people a lot. And the second part is definitely the staff, the collaborators of the hotel. That's for me, I always try to look at the uniforms, how they're dressed, how they move around, how they behave with the customers, and sometimes I also do my mystery guesting, and
Gosh.
sometimes I act as a potential customer in one hotel to try and go and spy and inspect, to understand what they're doing
But that's
and
the
look.
only way we realize how these hotels feel to our customers. As a hotel girl, whenever I stay in a hotel and there's not, a hook for my robe in the bathroom.
Oh
I
gosh,
think,
the famous
did
hook.
no one stay? Did no manager stay in these rooms to work out what we need? You know, like you
Absolutely.
have to be a guest to feel the experience of the guest, right?
The famous knob of the bathrobe is definitely, a must.
Or for us girls,
I love it.
the
The
lighting to put the
lighting.
makeup, right? Like how
Yeah.
many rooms, not in Melià, of course, but how many rooms we've stayed in where you can't even see to put mascara on because it's so dark, right?
Yeah, I don't
Like,
know, it's true. Or the lights around the mirrors are like super cool design lights, and then they make your face like look like horrible. So like, oh my God. So you have to get with your phone and get your mascara there,
but
and it's
now,
quite
I
funny.
travel with one of those little mirrors now just to sit at the window because I'm so bored of the lighting being wrong.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's
And
totally true, totally true. And
and
last, I mean,
Susan,
2 weeks ago, I was in Italy in an hotel that was not ours, obviously, because it was an area that I was visiting, and there was no hair dryer.
oh,
And I have semi-long hair. You definitely have longer,
I need a
but
hairdryer.
imagine without an hair dryer in Italy in semi-winter spring. I mean, no, but excuse me, but yeah. So there's many things that it was on request, but still. Are you saying that there are no long hair women coming to your hotel? Or
And
this
these
like
things are not expensive. Like to put a hairdryer in a room,
correct?
it's not going to cost you £1 million. And it's the guest experience. Yes, of course we can ask, but even in the asking, people get annoyed, right?
Absolutely, totally, totally.
Because
But
I'm sure
we
you go ahead, go
No, no,
ahead.
sorry. I was just saying that everything that we do, we shall always think in hospitality. We shall always think about the well-being, and this is what we did at Melià, especially with the mother brand. With the mother brand that I was managing from, which is Melià Hotels and Resorts, I was managing for many years. What we did in the latest brand vision, because one thing that we do, just to reconnect it to what we
Yeah.
were saying before, is that you say when you create a new brand, what happens, etc. But then the brand needs to live long term. And so every 2, 3, or 4 years, depending on the brand, we have a process that is called brand vision. So we analyze the brand from deep inside and out with all the departments that are involved:
What?
operations, finance, administration, sales, marketing, expansion. So all of the departments involved are basically sitting 2 or 3 days in a room together, and they're just basically understanding every single piece of the brand, understanding what the concept is doing, what trends are coming, and so then create something new for the brand, or that step forward to make it keeping on being interesting. And Melià, what we do was very much focused on well-being 360, which means that at Melià there's no big peaks of lifestyle or crazy experiences that are a little bit out of the box, which we do have in other brands. But Melià was the brand that makes you feel good. So the first thing we did, we went and retouched completely the room standards,
Yeah.
like those sheets and the pillows and the mattresses. So I got rid of all the decorative pillows and the runners that I hate. I mean, I remember the first years that we got rid of those. I'm like, what you do? And I was presenting in front of 300 salespeople from Melià. And I'm like, what you do the first thing when you go to an hotel and you see pillows on your bed? I mean, decorative pillow, you throw it where? On
On
the
the floor.
floor. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, there's no other space. So we got rid of those, and we created sheets that are designed that they look like home. So they're already decorated. So they have a line around, and the bed doesn't look too wide. So
Mm.
all the beauty of feeling well, and then you say, oh my God, this bed is like, I would love my bed at home to be like this one. So
Yeah.
as a matter of fact, we created also an online store to sell sheets and mattresses,
I love
because
that.
people love them. They love them.
And you mentioned there about trends. You just said that word trends. Is there anything you're seeing in hospitality that, is on trend, but actually you feel is a bit overrated? That people are running with these trends, but actually, does it have impact on the guest? Obviously not Melia, but other things you might be seeing.
Well, overrated. But because now that we do have a big Uber trend that is not totally at all overrated, which is
Which,
longevity.
okay.
Longevity is going off the roof, basically. There's brands that are creating a vision for longevity within their own core. So I've seen a lot, especially in the Middle East. There's a lot of clinic hotels that are starting to get developed with this longevity experience, like so embedded into the hotel stay. And I think longevity is today is something that everybody's interested in. So
Yeah.
it's not overrated. Everybody talks about it. Everybody
Mm,
wants to be part of it. I think more than overrated, I think this is a trend. Longevity connected to wellness and well-being, let's say, and longevity is something that affects maybe a different part of customers, that are in a certain age and are going, further. Definitely not the youngest. I don't think they're worried now about longevity. I'm sure that they want to live good, they want to live better, they want to live
well,
longer.
yeah.
But I think there is a more of a split on that side, and I think well-being overall, and I think also, but the overrated trends, I really, yeah, maybe. Oh, I'm just thinking about what I'm seeing also a lot in social, etc. I don't see
Mm.
anything that majorly overrated. Potentially is um, these collabs, these influencer collabs sometimes are, maybe that's a part that I see a little bit, and that's a trend, but that's a process. It's not really an hospitality trend, let's say.
And you touched on social media there. I mean, when you and I worked together, we didn't have all of the,
Imagine.
Instagram and all of this. And now, my clients, my venues, they have to deal with so much being posted, right up until not even of actual weddings, for example, but even the couples going to do the venue tour, they're videoing it and then posting it publicly like a review just of the walkthrough, and hotels, you've had this for years and years now where people are posting video clips, posting photo. How do you feel about
Yeah,
that? It's so out of the control of sales and marketing and branding. It must be hard to not be in control of what's getting out
it totally is. However, what there is a system of of understanding also with a certain control. Social media, we have it very much on a sophisticated ecosystem, so we try to be very much control what we do and what we feature. So it's difficult that we have something getting out of hand in social media. However, when you say what about everything that is posting and the wedding says, I mean, I think social media is helping. It's creating a lot of noise. It's
there?
creating
Awareness. Yeah.
sometimes chaos. I think also, and then depends on what the algorithm decides or whatever. Then you would see something, a lot, some trend in wedding that is very much desired and style, etc. But then it's completely disappeared. So I think social media can be good and bad, because at the end it's so volatile. I mean, it's so quick. And I
Yeah.
think that one thing that maybe has affected our world, and definitely the romance world, is the lack of attention. Now I think brides are seen. I mean, lack of attention is because it's the attention span that has been shortened a lot,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
even if this is the biggest day of your life, etc., I think there's a lot of uh, impatience in understanding what you want, because you see so many things, and
Yeah.
in such a short time, that it can be hard to get all the pieces together and then go to Kelly and say, listen, Kelly, this is my ideal wedding.
Yeah.
But I think that so many things sometimes can be distractive. But I believe also that there is so much information going on, and you have everything at your hand, that it's easier to organize what you really want. So hopefully it's easier for you, Kelly.
But it's overwhelming for couples. All of the
Absolutely.
options, and there's just more and more and more, and it becomes so overwhelming. And and us humans, we find it difficult to make decisions when there's so much choice, right? It makes it
It's true.
hard.
It's true. It's true.
And when you I know you love traveling. Obviously, it's a huge part of your life and
Mhm.
your job. But when you're not traveling and when you're not talking about hotels, what makes you happy?
Oh, well, that's a nice one. What makes me happy? I'm a foodie. I love to discover, new restaurants and, new chefs, and totally love to go around on food discovery. I'm a swimmer. I love the sea. I am a completely fanatic of the sea. The sea is my life. When I'm out of it, it's half of my life, and then the rest, I'm in it. So I love the sea. I love exploring, and I love traveling. I mean, makes me happy also to relax and just be in the water. That's
Do
what
you do
really.
any of this cold water swimming that everybody tells us is so
Oh,
good for us?
no, 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 no. I'm not good in cold water. I am actually very good in tropical waters because for 14 years, when I used to live in Miami, I used to go to the Virgin Islands and do a beach to beach swim of 6 kilometers, almost 4 miles, from a beach to another beach to another beach in St. John in the Virgin Islands. And
Wow.
it was my yearly appointment with this word. So, but then, and I also started, when I moved to Spain, I used to do it as well, but it was a little bit longer to get there,
Yeah.
obviously, from here. But one year I actually won the award as the longest traveler to get to the race because I was coming from the further point,
But
apparently. So
you
that
but
was
you
nice.
prefer the warm water.
I prefer the warm water to swim. Yes, indeed.
And early in your career, was there a mistake or a lesson, something that happened early on that has kind of stayed with you in terms of shaping your career, or a lesson that you learned that's always stayed with you?
Ah, wow, wow, wow. Well, a lesson, sometimes maybe it's to understand the type of personality that you have in front. I'm Italian of origin, I think you remember that. And I am very passionate, as you are, in what I do. So something that I did at the beginning of my career, and on one side, it kept on helping me, which is keeping the passion for what we do, Kelly. I mean, when you have something that you really like to do, I mean, nothing can stop you really. However, there is sometimes is the adaptation to different cultures that you need to learn, and that I'm talking at the very beginning, and
Mm,
I'm proudly saying that I am a multicultural, you know, person in terms of traveling, in terms of how you
mm,
deal with people, and I have to deal with the world. So from
yeah,
Asia to South America,
different.
to the northern countries, and I was in Estonia recently for a pitch in Finland. This is completely different world, even if we are in Europe and we are close. I mean, so I think it's something that I learned at the very beginning is to adapt yourself to the different type of cultures. Because when
Mm,
you stay in your own country and you deal with your own people all the time, it's
yeah.
different. And I notice it because I notice with my friends in Italy when I go to see my friends and they don't travel, they have not lived outside of the country. I can see there is a different approach. So especially when they travel. And so I think
Mm.
that's very important to adapt yourself to the different culture you are in front. And Middle
Oh,
East, when I opened the first hotel in
I
Dubai,
was just going to ask you about the Middle East,
woo,
because that whole corner is a very different culture to the
absolutely.
Americas and Europe. Tell me about the Middle East. Like, what happened there?
Middle East was incredible because we opened our first hotel in 2010. I think it was, yes,
And
2009,
where was that? In
2010
Dubai?
in Dubai. And it
Mm.
was a Melià hotel. So the brand was Melià. It was a boutique hotel designed by an Italian architect at that time, and it was fabulous. And we had to, this is the first time Melià was in the region. So we
Wow.
have to redo our logos in Arabic because they're mandatory. So
Oh,
imagine the signage on the building had to be in Arabic. So I
okay.
remember presenting to my colleagues the first Arabic name, in the company ever. And then, of course, it was all the marketing materials. And at that time, we're talking about 16 years ago, Kelly.
Yeah.
Now, Dubai, it's another story. You probably
It's,
have been there.
of
It's
course,
another
many
story.
times.
However, in
The
16
beginning.
years ago, it was still you couldn't show armpits, you could not show a lot of skin, and so we had to redo all these photo shoots, to promote the brand and to actually bring the brand for the first time in GCC. And so that was, having this beautiful Arab woman and models and dressing and all of that, so we could, kind of So for me, that was really interesting and emotional to bring what Melià
A new
was
barrier.
and translate it into, a new culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite
And have
different.
you, I can imagine, and have you expanded into other countries in the Middle East?
In the Middle East now, we do have a lot of projects moving. We haven't signed yet, but we are. This year is going to happen. But yes, indeed. Well, Saudi Arabia is one of
Oh,
them that we have plenty
wow.
of projects there. We actually do have two hotels signed in Qiddiya, which is one of the new cities.
Okay.
Kelly, it's unbelievable. They're going to have almost 1 million people living in a completely new city that they have created called Qiddiya. And Qiddiya, it's in the middle of the desert, and it's going to be a brand new city. And I was there to see the construction, and there is a stadium for I think 100,000 people, and there's a red flags, the thing that is going that they just inaugurated. It's the tallest in the world. It's going to be a lot of entertainment for families. And there's going to be hospitals, schools from scratch
Wow.
in the middle of the desert.
Incredible.
And you heard about the Giga projects from Saudi. You probably heard about it. The line that now has some issues,
Mm.
Neom as well, because they were very, very aspirational. They were very much. But Qiddiya is going on, and it's 40 minutes out of Riyadh, and it's going to be a brand new city, and we have 3 hotels there. Imagine, huge.
Wow. That
And then
must be,
we are
and this,
opening in Dubai, I think. Yes, there's a new one in Dubai coming up, a Grand Melià Hotel that is going to be stunning in Jumeirah. We have
oh,
one small in Dubai called the Desert Palm, which is a polo hub. Very interesting there. They have a lot of weddings there as well.
oh, it's
And
perfect because my
yeah,
passion is horses. So weddings
uh,
and horses, this
oh
is my
my
perfect.
goodness, that's your perfect place, Kelly. You need to be there.
I'm gonna
The
be
Desert
there.
Palm, Melià Desert Palm.
And I'm sure that because you've done so much in your career, I'm sure kind of breaking these new frontiers is exciting for you after, you know what you're doing, you're incredibly experienced, but then going into these new cultures and new countries must light you up again.
Absolutely. No, no, absolutely. And even when we were in Punta Cana, remember? And
Oh,
now
it
I
was
went
still a
back.
baby. Punta
Uh,
Cana was still like a tiny baby.
and now, I mean, there's so much development, and we have built an next Paradisos next to the one that you were at, Palma Real. Palma Real was completely renovated, so it's amazing now, amazing.
Oh.
And then there is a Zell. So there's a Rafa Nadal hotel in the middle between the two Paradisos, so it's quite interesting. But for example, what we did I think that was something that, because all the wedding packages we had to reinvent, etc. And there's a lot of them that are basically designed to be like a group of 30. And so you have a kind of flat rate, and you go then, and then you have extra people. But then the one that I really, really love is the one at Zell. But at Zell, they created a package where you can add all these classes and courses and yoga for all your guests, and it can be part of all the wedding experience. And active well-being from Rafa Nadal. The Zell Club is a club that is within the brand that Rafa Nadal has basically created all his wish list of what is training habits, etc. And so we actually invite our guests to follow how he would train. And there's also a tennis school there, so there's a lot of things that can be done in Punta Cana for weddings.
Love it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
How did you start in hospitality? How did this happen?
Oh, it's good to remember. Well, I started, my goodness, I was extremely young, and I started as a reservation agent for a charter flight from Milan to London. So
Ah,
that was my flight. So I was selling it online on the phone, sorry, on the phone. And then I was taking my little Vespa and all my printed tickets and 200 or something. And I was going to the airport with my Vespa, and I was going there, and then I was opening the flight, and I was actually doing the check-in of everybody. And then I was
love it.
leaving. That was my first. But then the very second one was a tour operator in Milan. So Viaggi del Ventaglio was one of the biggest tour operators in Italy. So I started there, and I actually started trying to sell the rooms from this tour operator that were unsold to international customers. So this tour
Ah,
operator used to have like Italian club models. They would take hotels individually and in exclusivity, but the hotels were not always filled with Italian customers from the tour operator. So I was in charge of international sales. And that was quite interesting because, of
love
course, the
it.
hotels were full Italian. And then I was bringing the Canadians, the Americans, the Germans, and nobody would speak any other language. So you can imagine I was selling like a machine. And then I would get all the complaints about these big tour operators from Canada. They are like flying millions of people. And they were like, can you please say hello in English to my
Yeah.
people?
Oh my God.
Ciao, ciao, ciao. And there was
It's the
everything,
full Italian experience.
it was an Italian experience in Cuba or in the Caribbean, or they're like, hello, we want to be there with. So it was quite funny, but I managed to have a very good mix, so the hotels became international.
And so how did you start with Melià? Because this has been the bulk of your career with Melià Hotels.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I'm very proud of because that's when
Mhm.
we met, and I started in 2006 in Miami, which was very close to Punta Cana, of course, and where I was traveling every week. I was traveling every week to all the Paradisus. I was in charge of brand management for Paradisus
Yeah.
resorts, and it was fabulous. So every week I would go to the Paradisus in Mexico, to the one in Costa Rica, to the one in Punta Cana, trying to understand how we could make it better. Do the analysis of the concept, and then we created those programs that you've seen. We have created an adults only area, the family concierge area for families and VIP treatments for them. So there were many things that were done in order to kind of get the brand much more interesting. So I was in
And
Miami. That's where I started.
these were really the first, this was a real leader in
Yeah,
those things because people see these things now today. You know, even now when I travel, everybody has a wedding office, right? But
yeah,
when you were starting all of this brand vision for Paradisus, nobody had a wedding office that you walked into. It was
mhm,
all out the back, right?
yes,
You said, no, we need to have a front facing wedding office. We need to have a family concierge, not just an adults concierge. Like you really led that. And we weren't seeing that at other brands. Now we see them across the brands, but I'm not
yeah.
sure people realize that in that year, that was not a thing. This was all very fresh and people were wowed by all of these experiences.
True, true, true. And it's funny enough because I was thinking about it the other day because I saw a new brand in Mallorca that is completely copying two of our brands. It's a
Yeah.
mix of two. And I'm
Yeah.
like, really? I mean, really the same lamps, the same tables. And I'm like, and I remember when we first, because there were many, innovation, and you need to be the first one. There's so many things that we innovated with. The adults only area, the VIP area, then everybody copied it. The level, the royal service,
Yeah.
and now it's called the reserve. Um, to have, like now is to have like a car from certain brand that you could use as a customer during your stay.
Yeah.
Everybody's doing that. Um, and that's that it's a little bit sad because everything is already invented and now everybody's kind of trying to copy each other. One thing is to get inspiration. I think you can get inspired, and I
Of
think
course.
I want my brand to be organic, but from that part to be copying the green wall that we have in the bar, the same street light, the lamps, etc. I mean, the lamps in the restaurant, everything. I mean, this brand is alpha. And what this is my hotel? Oh no, it's not. Kelly, it was scary, huh? It was scary. I think
And I
we
think
lack we
many
lack creativity now.
many people will resonate with what you said because even when I'm dealing with, entrepreneurs who are running small businesses, they have the same things happen to them, and they will feel some comfort that even at the level of Melia, you're feeling that as well, and having people copy what you do, and that it still hurts your heart the same as it does when,
Yeah.
you're one person in a business because it's upsetting when people copy the things you've done, and but what can we do? What can we do?
No, there's nothing.
Huh?
Plus, you cannot register everything. So we register because that's another story. Because we have an army of lawyers that are there, and we try to register our brands because there were cases where we had companies copying completely our brand.
Yeah, it's
and
crazy.
so that's a case where you need to get your
Yeah.
lawyers, marching, and that's where it's a little bit worrying, because when it's your intellectual property, it's your brand, it's your
It,
logo.
it
I mean,
hurts.
it's not right. You
Yeah,
follow what I'm saying? And
absolutely.
I think this type of movements that are not the favorite ones. We have a say in Italian that they have short legs. They don't go very far.
It's true. It's absolutely true. And has there been a person who has influenced you or that has inspired you through your career?
More than one, more than one, more than one. Definitely, um, when I was at Sandals for a year, I was inspired by Mr. Butch Stewart, the founder and CEO of Sandals, that is not with us anymore. And that it was definitely, for me, as a marketing person, he
Mm,
was one of the most incredible marketers in the world at this time, at his own style, with
mm.
a brand that he built from scratch, destinations that he built from scratch, a Caribbean that actually he had refreshed. I mean, he did an amazing job. And also
Yeah.
with the airline, with Air Jamaica. I remember flying Air Jamaica when people were smoking on the plane. So, and I mean, even in
Yeah.
Italy, I mean, my best friend used to be like a chain smoker. I'm not a smoker, but my best friend was a chain smoker, and she was smoking and with the plane. And you remember that they were in the back,
My
etc.
mum,
So,
my mum
oh
used
yeah,
to do that on our family holidays. You would sit in the smoking section of the plane.
imagine. And then they took her Jamaica from the government, and he created this concept of champagne flights, and it was not champagne. It was a prosecco of very, basic quality. However, to be sitting in economy and getting a glass of champagne was
Bubble.
something completely out of the world. And he did an amazing job with the airline. And well, but then he gave it back or whatever. But he was one of them. And then I was definitely impressed by my former founder and chairman that passed 2 years ago, Mr. Escarrer. He was
Oh,
incredible. His story is incredible. He wrote a book on his life, and I think
oh, he
his
did.
yes, it's called My Life. I would love to get a copy to you if you want in
Yes,
English.
I would
We
love
do have
that
them,
for sure.
yes, and it's
Mm.
amazing. That was one of the last thing that he did, and I think it was very emotional for him. And writing a book about your life, and I think it's something that is quite
I'm
important.
sure for many of us in hospitality, that would be an interesting read.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what he did, and how he actually created an empire from the first hotel that he rented in 1956, and it was a small hotel from an English British from British woman, and he went there. He was
Really?
18. He was 18, and he said, "I want to rent your hotel." And she said, "I don't know you very well. Will you have the money?" And he went to the priest of the community and asked the priest for intervention with this lady, and the priest intervened, and the lady finally decided to give the hotel to him, and that was the first sole hotel
Wow.
of Melià, and that was in 1956. Imagine. And now there's
Mm.
almost 400 hotels across the world,
And also that they
and
maintained that family style.
and the
And,
family roots, and the family values. But first of all, the ownership, it's a majority of the family, so that's a good
but
thing
this
because
is
it helps
rare.
you.
How rare
It's
this is
true.
today.
And so this is actually one of our USPs as a
Mm.
company, and one of the most, definitely attractive points for us, because the family values are the ones that are rooted within,
Yeah.
the whole company vision. We are quoted on the stock exchange, so we are a public company, but
Mm.
it's very, very much driven by the family values of the Escarrer
Yeah.
family, with they own 54%. So it's quite uh, radicated in and rooted into the company strategy
Yeah.
and the
And
approach. And Kelly, can I
Susanna,
ask you a question? Can I ask
oh
you a
yes.
question?
You
What?
just got
Because
in there before I threw my last one at you.
no, no. I want to ask you, I said, what memories, and what really is the best memory that you have from your time as a romance manager? Because we haven't talked about how we created together a role. And
Yeah.
now there's, in the hotels, there's plenty of romance managers. But
Yeah,
would you
there
ever
really are
thought
so many.
we would create a title of somebody that is managing romance? It's
Yeah.
amazing. So tell me, what did you
So for
remember? So
me,
just one thing that,
yeah, for me, my time at Paradisus with you and that moment in time was when my career really changed direction. So before that, I was, doing some small weddings. I was traveling around, working in hotels, but it was all a little bit small, right? And I don't mean just in numbers. I just mean I was just young and that was it. I was doing a few little weddings. I was traveling. It was just fun. Then, when I took the role with you and the team and this whole new vision of the romance brand and the romance manager, and I remember you talking about creating weddings that were still destination, but were no longer just 10 people on a beach. It was going to be 100 people coming, it was going
yeah,
to be proper events. And I saw that vision and I loved it. And at that moment, I realized that no, actually, weddings was going to be my career rather than just something I was doing for a few years for fun. And and then that really stayed with me until until now. It became my whole life. And that moment was one of those moments where your life goes in that direction, because without that, I may have just gone in a different direction. And so for me, that role, that moment with you, with Paradises, is pivotal to the rest of my career, that ended up with me doing events for the Queen and celebrities and in the best hotels in London, and now with my own business. But yeah, so it was a very pivotal moment in my personal story.
wonderful. I believe that was incredible, because we started something from scratch and something new that then became something quite normal for everybody else, but
Yeah.
that definitely was not before. But
And that's what
that
I mean by
desire,
people copying. Yeah, like there was no romance manager, there was no office that you could walk into like we then created. And even the size of the weddings, they became big celebrations on the beach, hundreds of people, bands, and it wasn't where they were before, just 10, 20 people on a beach. We created big events with, and from a business
yeah,
perspective with great revenue.
absolutely. That's definitely
Okay, Susanna,
okay.
I
Thank
want one
you.
more question for you. One more question. If
Hmm.
you hadn't ended up in hospitality,
Oh,
what would you be doing?
huh. Well, I was to well, part of my studies were simultaneous translation, which there's something that I probably would have translator. That was something that would be, that would have been interesting for me. But now imagine if I was gonna do that, I would be out of a job for sure.
And
With
how many
translations,
languages
no,
do you speak?
no, I speak basically three.
I
But
mean, for
I
the
was
rest of
gonna,
us, that's
I had a
amazing.
fourth one learning that I didn't finish to learn, which is German, but no, I didn't. But now I speak three. But it was like simultaneous translation, which is not the same of translating. So simultaneous translation is something quite different. While you're speaking, I'm translating.
Yeah, so like when a
Yeah,
person is on stage and you're speaking in
yeah,
people's ear, I mean, that's a whole skill. That's like an
yeah.
amazing
That's quite interesting. But then otherwise, I would be probably in food and beverage,
skill. Okay.
because I love concepts. I love, restaurants. I love the whole life of food and beverage and the
What's your
departments overall.
favorite food? Can you tell us?
Well, I definitely have. Well, I'm not gonna say Italian because Italian is number one in the world. So I mean, I want to be a little bit different. But I have a passion for Asian fusion,
Ooh, yeah.
like, yeah, a little bit not Chinese, but mostly Thai, Japanese, Indonesian, and then I love Mediterranean also, Lebanese also, that side. Yeah, 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 yeah. And
Amazing.
you? And you? Tell me
Amazing.
yours.
Mine are actually very similar to yours. So I do
Ah,
really
yeah.
enjoy the Asian fusion and also the kind of Greek Turkish style as well. So yeah, I mean, we're so lucky
Exactly.
now that, and of course I live in London, so we can also get all of these different incredible dishes as well. So it's amazing.
Absolutely.
Dana, if people want to connect with you after this podcast episode, where would be the best place for them to find you?
Well, they can find me on LinkedIn, definitely. And then they
Perfect.
can find me on Instagram as well. where I try to post, interesting things about my travel and stuff and Mallorca, etc. And then, I mean, I think those are
Perfect.
enough, I
Yeah,
think, right?
that's amazing.
Yes,
So
they
we
can
will
join me
put all
there.
of the links in the show notes so that if our listeners want to connect with you on Instagram or LinkedIn, they can. Susanna, it's been such a pleasure to have you as a guest on the podcast. Thank you so much for sharing some of those stories with us. It's been a pleasure.
The pleasure has been all mine, Kelly, and it was very emotional to be with you again after so many years. And it's fantastic the job that you're doing. Congratulations and thank you again. We'll speak
Yay!
soon. Thanks
Thank
everyone for
you.
listening. Bye now.